What's up, Doc?
Good morning! Oh, and in case I don't see you, good afternoon, good evening, and good night.
Greetings and salutations.
Hello, Poppy.
Hello there. Idly-ho, neighborinos.
You are cleared to land on Docking Bay 77, a podcast about movies, music, TV, and anything else these guys can think to talk about. Hello and welcome to Docking Bay 77. I am your host, Dayton Johnson, and joining me from the Film By podcast is Brad Kozo. How are you doing today, Brad?
Well, I'm still $1 million shy of being a millionaire, but other than that, pretty good.
Absolutely right. Okay, so hey, Brad, have you ever been on a flight that's either been diverted or a flight that got canceled?
Too many.
Too many? Okay.
Too many. I've been on so many, so many rerouted flights, canceled flights, delayed flights. It never ceases to amaze me how I never have a normal trip ever.
All right. Well, have you ever had problems with a rental car company?
I haven't had problems with a rental car company, except that they gave me a very extremely small car once on a road trip that just was a little bit scary. But other than that, but at least I had a car. Right.
Okay. Well, have you ever sat next to somebody on a plane or even on a bus that just wouldn't stop talking, that drove you absolutely nuts?
Yeah, but once again, too many of them. It's usually someone in front of me that's not specifically talking to me, just talking and doing things constantly, like either constantly getting up, constantly turning on the light, constantly asking this, the flight attendant for something. That person is multiple times. What about you?
Yeah, it's usually somebody behind me, making noise, kicking the seat. Yeah, my last flight home, I was literally leaving into the air at 9:30 at night, and we should have been at home 3 hours already. So that was pleasant. But we'll see, all this stuff and more happens to Steve Martin when he meets John Candy in the movie Planes, Trains, and Automobiles.
During holiday travel, some people get delirious. Some get delayed. And some get Del Griffin.
American Light and Fixture, Director of Sales, Shower Curtain Ring Division.
Neil Page got all three.
I was on my way home to spend a nice holiday with my family. Instead, I'm in a motel bed with a stranger.
So instead of Thanksgiving with his family, he's spending 3 days with the turkey.
Two happy clams just whistling down the road.
Flintstones, meet the Flintstones, they're the Marconi family.
Paramount Pictures presents
Wilma!
Steve Martin.
You ever been to Hawaii?
Yeah.
You see Don Ho while you were there?
See the second show, that's the best one.
Is that right?
Yeah.
John Candy.
Why are you holding my hand? Where's your other hand? Between two pillows. Those aren't pillows.
In a new film by John Hughes. Planes, Trains, and Automobiles.
See that Bears game last week? Yeah, hell of a game.
All right, so in preparation for this, Brad, I hear that you've got some information about the writer, director, and producer John Hughes. What can you tell us about him?
Well, in the 70s, he started out writing for National Lampoon magazine. Right. And that obviously leads to stuff like Vacation. He went to Glenbrook North High School in Illinois.
Uh-huh.
And he was actually given the Distinguished Alumni Award from that school, but he actually declined it because of the terrible memories of high school.
Wow. Well, okay.
And then he did attend Arizona State University, where I actually just got my degree.
Very cool. Very
interesting.
Cool. Congratulations.
And then there's kind of a lot of stuff not really known about him because he stopped doing interviews around like the early 90s, and he just kind of went in seclusion for really up until his death. I mean, he had some interesting, just constantly throwing out so many scripts. I mean, when you look at this guy's screenwriting credits, I mean, the fact that he only directed 8 films,
right?
But his screenplays are stellar, and there's so many of them.
I know, right?
Even the ones that aren't the big ones, like something like Career Opportunities or She's Having a Baby in Dutch. They're really, really good films.
Well, yeah, I always forget that Mr. Mom was a John Hughes, another one, and Some Kind of Wonderful, which is a little bit more well known, but not really. But yeah, he had quite a writing career, and I mean, like writes the first draft in like 3 or 4 days, And then I did see he liked to revise them 20, 25 times, which makes sense. But yeah, that initial 2 or 3 days of writing a screenplay, that's impressive, and then have so many that are good. That's even more impressive.
So many. I mean, as I was looking through his just writing credits, it was just stellar. And then the fact that so many things have been used on just characters he's based on, based on characters that he's written.
Right. Well, yeah, he definitely left his mark on American cinema by far. I don't think there's anybody that has ever, I mean, any moviegoer, any movie watcher has not seen at least one of his movies. I mean, they're just kind of everywhere.
For somebody that was so quiet, he spoke a lot with his movies.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Okay. So like I said, we're talking about the movie Planes, Trains, and Automobiles. A brief synopsis for anyone that has not seen the movie, if there is very many. Steve Martin plays Neil Page, and he is in marketing, and he's trying to get home from New York to Chicago to be home for Thanksgiving. And he comes across Del Griffiths, played by John Candy, and all kinds of things go wrong. His flight gets, diverted to Wichita, which is actually happened to Hughes, which is where the inspiration for this movie came from. And on their way back, they have to, stay in a nasty hotel, and they end up renting a car after they tried to get home on a train. And then it's just one thing after another. And eventually he does, spoiler alert, does make it home. Yeah. Now, what would you categorize this as a road movie, a buddy movie, or is it a holiday movie? What do you think?
I think it's, in the essence, all three.
Okay.
I mean, it works in every one of those aspects. I mean, I can't think of another really great or even pretty good Thanksgiving movie.
Yeah, I was looking around. I mean, there's a few, but there's one with Holly Hunter.
Yeah,
Home for the Holidays, and that one's not that great either.
No, and I recently had watched that because I remember the memory of it being a lot funnier, a lot more clever, and it's really dated.
Yes, absolutely. Now, I looked at this, and even though it does take place at Thanksgiving, to me, the fact that it's Thanksgiving isn't really important. I mean, he could be getting home for any number of reasons. Like he could be trying to get home for a kid's birthday or for a wedding or whatever. It works as Thanksgiving because it's an official date. Nobody's going to postpone their birthday. Nobody's going to necessarily postpone Thanksgiving if they don't have to. And of course, it works into the season of winter. Fall going into winter. But yeah, I think it starts off as a road movie that kind of evolves into a buddy movie.
Yeah,
it's how I look at it. But yeah, it's definitely a mashup of all three ultimately.
Yeah, because neither one of them can get there without the other. Each one of them contributes to this trip in a way that the other one cannot.
Right. I mean, it's like, it seems like Del knows all these people that help along the way, but he really kind of needs Neil to pay for everything is what it comes down to. So speaking of, needing each other or whatever throughout the movie, what about this movie do you like? What works for you? What is like burned into your brain about things that make you want to watch it every year?
I think because it is all those three elements that you said before, it does not feel dated, especially since, people like me and you keep traveling and have these weird things happen to you. So also having it on Thanksgiving gives a, well, yeah, I can see that people are busy. It could have easily taken place during Christmas as well.
Right.
Just any big traveling holiday, really. But it's funny when it needs to be funny. It's touching when it needs to be touching. And it's you want to see them get home. Yeah. You want to see them get home. And even halfway when Dell is being just the most annoying and the most screwing up things, you do not want these two to part. You do not want these two to part. And the rest of the movie, when they have those small little scenes, when it's just them, it's like you miss the chemistry together.
Right. One of the things that really sticks out in my mind is at the beginning of the movie, you're introduced to these two guys. And honestly, at first, I know Steve Martin's kind of supposed to be I don't want to call him the hero, but you're supposed to really root for him to get home. But at first, you're not quite sure if you like him very much. No. And then John Candy, he's very friendly, but he's kind of oblivious. I guess it's a good word for it. So you're like, I don't know would I want to come out of a shower and see that bathroom destroyed like that and be okay with that? And, but what really works is that all the awkwardness, all the uncomfortability, all the, like when they're on the airplane and, Steve Martin sandwiched between Candy and that old man. And it's like, and then just everything that happens to him, you're like cringing for him. But as their arguments, then how they just don't get along, but it works and it builds towards the scene in the hotel. This is the later third of the movie where they're getting drunk and eating chips and laughing the whole time. And in that scene, you're like, okay, they became friends. So all that weirdness, all the awkwardness, all the stuff that was irritating and frustrating and driving nuts made them kind of put them close together, made them bond. And then you finally get to that point, it's the payoff as a friendship, but not as a movie because they still haven't gotten home yet. But I really liked how that worked.
Yeah. And they both change.
Right.
Both of them. And I think some people think like, well, only Steve Martin's character changed. Like, no, Dell changed because when you get to that ending, Dell knows you need to let Neil go. Right. He knows, he doesn't try to push it anymore when he totally could have.
Right. Well, yeah, it's like he has that moment when he's sitting in the burned up car talking to his wife and saying, I did it again. I pushed him away. I pushed so hard. And it's like he realized at that point, he's like, I have to realize what I'm doing and stop. And so, yeah, you're right. They both evolve. They both grow. They both learn something and that works. And
I mean, it does go with the supposed theme of Thanksgiving of giving thanks to what you have and sharing it with someone that doesn't have it.
Right. Yeah. And that's what I like about, like I said, there's a lot of things I do, but also it's such a relatable movie because so many of us have been in at least one of those situations somewhere, in the crowded airport, waiting for your flight, showing up for your rental car and it being the wrong one or not even there, or the annoying person sitting next to you or near you. So we've all been there. And Hughes really does a good job with writing all that, describing all that. And of course, Candy and Martin do such a good job making you feel for them. And it's the details, like when the flight, when they're in Wichita and the flight gets canceled, of course, Ben Stein delivers that great line that, says, the flight to Chicago has been canceled due to weather. And he smiles. Behind him on the board says destination, says nowhere. So it's like just little details like that. And at the very beginning, when Dell accidentally steals the cab, when it pulls away, Steve Martin looks down, there's shower curtain rings in the water. So he's already at the very beginning of the movie, just leaving details around for you.
Yeah.
For almost like a trail of breadcrumbs to follow. It's great. It is absolutely great.
And the thing is, I mean, I like traveling. I hate getting there. I hate flying. And anytime I see this movie, it's very relatable, especially at the airport type of thing. And anytime I see a television show where someone has an unpleasant flight experience, it just always rings true to me. I mean, maybe that's why it hits me a little bit extra, because I'm like, yeah, that seems about right.
Okay, so we mentioned a lot of things we like about it. Now, is there anything in the movie that just doesn't work for you? Anything you don't like?
Very little.
Yeah.
I am there. There's a couple of the scenes where it's just Steve Martin just staring at his wife, just staring at her as like the music's going on. He's daydreaming about getting home, and he's just giving her this stare, and it's not supposed to be funny, but it's uncomfortable. He's looking at her with these like, I'm going to take you upstairs. And I don't think it's supposed to be funny. It's supposed to be like a nice memory of like, I love my wife so much, but it goes on for too long. But yeah, very little do I not very much that I don't like in this movie.
Yeah. I mean, I struggled. In fact, when I was working on my notes, I passed this up and I was going to come back to it, and I still haven't really nailed down anything that takes me out of the movie, or I'm like going, oh, come on, ridiculous or whatever. I mean, it's as close to a movie of this kind as far as perfect, because, like I said, it's relatable. It's funny, the humor, the characters. I mean, yeah, there's a few goofs here and there as far as, continuity, but that happens in a lot of movies.
Yeah.
So to me, there's nothing in the movie that really takes me out. There's nothing. I mean, I never really, because sometimes movies like this, you kind of want, oh, come on, just go your separate ways. Just do yourselves a favor. Somebody leave, get away from each other. And I didn't really feel that in this, because I think ultimately, like you said before, we realize that these two are intertwined. They are destined to be together and destined to get each other home. And so, yeah, for me, I couldn't really find anything that took me out.
Yeah. I actually just thought of one of the things, and once again, very, very, very small.
Okay.
But I have to say the song at the end, Paul Young's Every Time You Go Away.
Okay. Yeah. I want to talk about that when we get
to
it. Yeah. It doesn't really fit. I mean, it kind of does, but not really. So,
because it sounds like when you would buy one of those like tapes or CDs that you thought was like a compilation of songs from movies, and you didn't read the fine print, it says actually performed by
somebody else,
Sally and the Vandells, from New Jersey.
Right.
Put it on, you're like, wait a minute, that's not the same. But that's what it sounds. It's like it's not even the original. But yeah, we'll get to that.
Yeah, I know. I see your point. Okay, so let's talk about some favorites. Do you have a favorite Steve Martin scene?
I mean, the F-bomb scene is pretty great, but I think the parts that crack me up with him are the parts where he's going off on Dell, especially in the car when they're going through their things they don't like about each other, you play with your balls too,
God,
like that. You broke the seat. You broke the goddamn seat. I mean, I still say that when I get in the car in the seat and I'm like, you broke the seat. You broke the goddamn seat.
You broke the seat. You broke the goddamn seat. I don't believe it.
It wasn't broken when I got out.
You messed around with it till you broke it.
How can you break a car seat? It's impossible.
What do you mean it's impossible?
You want to drive?
No, I don't. Why did you do this?
Look, I'm not going to be held responsible for faulty engineering.
Oh, well, this is comfortable. This is really comfortable.
No, you're absolutely right. Actually, I want to talk about that whole sequence here in a minute. Mm-hmm. No, it's Steve Martin is so good at, because he's reserved, but as a comedian, he's not. I used to listen to his comedy records when I was a kid and see him on Saturday Night Live, and he's just that wild and crazy guy, and he does all this humor with the arrow through his head and the banjo, and then you hear these stories about how he's actually quite reserved and in person and in private and everything, and so to see him playing a character like this that is quite reserved, it just wants to get home, but then man, when he loses it, it is just too funny. Funny. So yeah.
And if you haven't seen, Steve Martin is killing it right now with him and Martin Short and Only Murders in the Building.
Yeah, I know. I need to start watching that. I've heard it's spectacular.
And the thing is, it is Steve Martin type of comedy that you see in this movie. So it's very relatable.
Okay. Now, see, I am going to call out the rental car scene with the 19 F-bombs because I've never gotten quite to that point. But at this point in the movie, you are like, oh my God, he needs to lose it, because if he doesn't, he's literally going to explode and just like leave little bits of Steve Martin all over the place. So it's so funny because he delivers it just one step shy of completely losing his mind.
Welcome to Marathon. May I help you?
Yes.
How may I help you?
You can start by wiping that fucking dumbass smile off your rosy fucking cheeks. Then you can give me a fucking automobile, a fucking Datsun, a fucking Toyota, a fucking Mustang, a fucking Buick, 4 fucking wheels and a seat.
I really don't care for the way you're speaking to me.
And I really don't care for the way your company left me in the middle of fucking nowhere with fucking keys to a fucking car that isn't fucking there. And I really didn't care to fucking walk down a fucking highway and across a fucking runway to get back here to have you smile in my fucking face. I want a fucking car right fucking now.
And the looks on Edie McClurg's character is hilarious. You know, her reactions, and oh my God, it's one of the scenes that actually Steve Martin agreed, because of this scene, he agreed to do the movie.
Yeah.
So this one and the one you mentioned, the chair scene, those are the two that really were like, okay, yeah, I'm doing this movie.
And the thing is, I think for me, up at that point, I had never seen Steve Martin drop F-bombs. So him doing this was such a shock, because I'm trying to go through my head. I don't think he said it in The Jerk or any of that stuff, but I just
usually. No,
you know, and at that time when, you know, those were common language for the, you know, the more raunchier, you know, type of comedians. But with him doing it, it's so out of character is what makes it funny. It wouldn't have worked with somebody who we've seen do that before a lot.
Right. It wouldn't have surprised us had it been somebody like Eddie Murphy or something like that.
Yeah.
Where you're like, okay, well, that's whatever. That's nothing new.
And this is the one scene, which I'm very surprised. Without this scene, this film gets a PG-13 rating.
Absolutely. It possibly even a PG,
one
because
scene.
because there's not much else to it. So,
but they don't go R with anything else.
Oh, such a good scene. Such a good scene. I'm smiling about it right now.
Yeah.
Okay. So what about John Candy? Is there one particular scene for you that stands out? Because he's really good. I mean, for everything from his little sleazy mustache to his curly, tight hair, and you know, just, I don't know. Is there one that sticks out for you?
I really like his introduction.
I know you, don't I? I'm usually very good with names, but I'll be damned if I haven't forgotten yours.
You stole my cab.
I've never stolen anything in my life.
I hailed a cab on Park Avenue this afternoon, and before I could get in it, you stole it.
You're the guy who tried to get my cab. I knew you. Yeah. You scared the bejesus out of me. Come to think of it, it was awful easy to get a cab during rush hour.
Forget it.
I can't forget it. I am sorry. I had no idea that was your cab. Let me make it up to you somehow, huh, please? How about a nice hot dog and a beer?
No thanks.
Just a hot dog, then.
I'm kind of picky about what I eat.
Some coffee.
No.
Milk?
No.
Soda?
No.
Some tea?
No.
Lifesavers?
No.
Slurpee?
Sir, please.
Just let me know. I'm here. I knew you.
Okay.
When they're just waiting for the thing, you know, and he does that. I usually remember names, but I'll be damned if I forget. I mean, that whole.
I know you, right? I know you. Yeah.
Yeah. Just that right there just gets me every time, because it's his introduction and it's so stellar.
Yeah. Yeah, you're right. You know, because he goes from being really friendly. I mean, he's friendly the whole time. He goes, oh, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to. Let me buy you a drink. Let me buy you some food or something.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's pretty
He's
good.
so oblivious.
Yeah. So actually, I have it's not quite a favorite scene. It's a sequence of scenes. So mine starts when they're on the bus and he's singing with everybody.
Flintstones, meet the Flintstones, they're the Marconi family. From the town of Bedrock, they're a page right out of history. When you're with the Flintstones, have a yabba dabba do time, a yabba do time, you'll have a gay old time. Wilma!
You get one version of Dell. You get the happy-go-lucky, everybody is with me kind of Dell. And then you're at the bus station. He's selling the shower curtain rings to everybody.
How do you do, ma'am? My name is Del Griffith. I'm with the American Light and Fixture Company, Jewelry Division, and I've got the deal of a lifetime for you. Do you have a minute? This is your Diane Sawyer autographed earring. You ever watch 60 Minutes? Thanks. This is Czechoslovakian ivory. That's $5. Great. This is your Walter Cronkite moon ring. Thank you. They are filled with helium, so they're very light. Thank you. This is an autographed Daryl Strawberry earring. All right. These are very special earrings, by the way. These were originally handcrafted for the Grand Wizard of China back in the 4th century. Now, these, of course, aren't the originals, but they are replicas, very good replicas, too. They're selling for $5 a pair, 2 for $7. You know something? It makes you look a little older, too. I mean, not just a little bit. You could pass for 18 or 19.
So you have the salesperson Dell, which we haven't seen yet.
Yeah.
And then you get when they're eating that meal afterwards in the little diner, and C. Martin says, "I think we should go our separate ways." Now you get the slightly hurt and vulnerable Dell.
I think I'm holding you up.
Oh, no, don't say that about yourself. That's not true, Neil. It really isn't true.
No, I really think we'll get to where we're going a lot faster if we were alone.
Okay. I see. I think I'm just going to take care of this, and I think I'm going to get going.
I appreciate that.
Yeah, that's fine. That's
it's just harder for two people to travel,
Yeah, sure it is.
And if you got reservations?
Yeah, I know what you're saying.
Thanks for the mail.
Yeah, okay, that's all right. And I think I arranged some of this to...
No.
Take this.
Del, I told you I do not feel like taking your money, Del.
Take the money, buy your kids a chocolate turkey or something like that. I don't want the money, okay?
I'm just going to leave it there.
I got enough for my kids. Then leave it. If you want to leave it, fine. That's okay. I'm done, okay? I've got to get going now, so if you'll excuse me, I got things to do. Good luck to you, and I hope you get home soon.
I'll see you.
Yeah, sure you will.
Yeah.
So within this short time frame, you get 3 different versions of this character, and John Candy really did a good job conveying each one of those emotions. So that those series, as far as focusing on just him, I think those really, really work well together.
Yeah. And I have to ask, if you had your choice, would you want a Daryl Strawberry autographed ring or a Neil Armstrong moon ring?
Oh, the Neil Armstrong moon ring.
Yeah, me too.
Okay, so now let's get to a general favorite scene. This is one that stands out for you. I mean, there's throughout the entire movie, it could be it could be anybody, anything. Is there a certain scene that's like your flat out favorite? The
whole car sequence. When
Me
they
too.
when they get the car, the whole car sequence from this, even at the very beginning, the way he gets in the car, from the
picks him up by his
second
nuts.
there is not a dull part from when the car pulls up and he's on the ground to the car, blowing up and, him punching him. Just
Right.
there's not a dull second.
Yeah, I think it actually continues all the way up to when they pull up to the hotel in the melted car. You know, and he has to like unstick his hands off the steering wheel. Oh my God. When Candy's driving and he's singing the mess around, along to Ray Charles, and he's all over the road. He's just having such a good time. And, his arms get stuck, and, he spins out and says, "Oh, we almost hit a deer," and then they end up going the wrong way. And oh my God, just
yeah. Oh, he's drunk.
Oh, he's drunk. He doesn't know.
He wants something.
He's probably drunk.
You're going the wrong way! What? You're going the wrong way!
He says we're going the wrong way.
Oh, he's drunk. How would he know where we're going?
Yeah, how would he know? Thank you. Thanks a lot. Terrific.
Thank you. What a moron.
We say that too anytime somebody beeps at us. Instead of getting mad, I'll just be like, "Oh, he's drunk.
He doesn't know where we're going."
Know where we're going,
right? And there's actually some logic in that when he says, says we're going the wrong way. Oh, how does he know where we're going?
Yeah.
How does he know where we're going?
Thank you.
Oh man, and then the little section where they're going between the two semis. Oh my God, I start laughing so hard it hurts. Yeah. And just as I start to get myself under control, he punches him in the stomach.
Yeah. And then falls while doing it.
It's just amazingly funny. Like you said, there's not really anything dull going on. Like when they switch seats, you broke the seat. You broke the guy. Just like you said before. Yeah. It's so good. And then the realization that, Steve Martin, that, Neil left his wallet in the burning car.
Yeah.
It's like, oh my God, everything. It's just, oh my God. Very, very funny. So I'm glad we had the same one because, I don't think there's a sequence better in that movie. I just don't think so.
And it leads up to that great hotel room scene where, he's trying to pay with the burnt credit cards and that gives the watch and,
right.
And Dell's got to show him the Casio.
Right. Which of course leads into the scene where, he lets Dell come in because he realizes he's going to sit in the car all night.
Love is not a big enough word. It's not a big enough word for how I feel about my wife.
To the wives.
To the wives. Wow.
Well, let me just close this conversation by saying you are one unique individual.
What is unique? Latin for asshole?
You grab those off. I'm gonna kick them off.
Yeah.
Well, I'll tell you, as much trouble as I've had on this little journey, I'm sure one day I'm gonna look back and laugh.
You think so?
Oh, I'm laughing already.
Oh, God.
Oh, when that car blew up.
Was that seat hot or what? I feel like a big whopper. Turn me over, I'm done on this side. I'm afraid to look at my ass, I'm gonna have those griddle marks on my ass.
What is that?
Potato chips. They're everywhere!
Why do I feel like I'm at summer camp?
Yeah.
And then they drink, get drunk, and eat chips. So, and which is where their friendship is really solidified. So, yes, it's a brilliant sequence of events. So, but now I want to talk about bit players or cameos because there's a lot. There's a lot of reoccurring, let's say from, Hughes, his very own, group of actors, because you have the dad from Ferris Bueller. Of course, like I said, you have Ben Stein from Ferris Bueller. You have Edie McClure.
The dad from She's Having a Baby.
Right.
The boss.
Right. And then, of course, you have at the very beginning, you have Kevin Bacon, who had just finished shooting She's Having a Baby. So it's like he kind of brings that universe, once again, convincing us that there is a John Hughes universe.
Yeah.
Okay. It all takes place in the same place, same universe. It's near Chicago. That's all we know. These little mythical towns that are just outside of Chicago. So
that's Shermer. That's the place that doesn't exist.
Right. Because you remember in Dogma, Jay and Silent Bob are trying to get there because, and then they realize there is no Shermer, which makes that even funnier. So anyway, okay. So my question to you is, do you have a favorite cameo or bit part in this movie? Because I have one and I love it. I'm just kind of curious if it's the same one.
Favorite one? Man, there's so many.
Right. I know. There's one that stands out to me that it gets funnier every time I see it.
I mean, I really like Larry Hankin as Doobie the cab driver.
Okay, yeah, that's a good one. I would love to ride in that cab.
I mean, just, he's proud of his town. That's a damn rare thing.
I know, right?
It's the middle of just things like that. I mean, because there are different cultures in different parts of the country.
Right.
And certain people do certain ways, and they are traveling the country. So they're going to come across things they don't see in Chicago or New York.
Right.
And I like how every town is a little bit different, but oh yeah, there's so many that are good, and there's small bit players, besides
right.
Kevin Bacon there,
right.
but I really like him, and I really like the Martin Ferrero, the guy that looks like he is John Cazale, but he's not John Cazale.
Right.
But just his, I'm like, do you have $37 and a nice watch?
Well, yeah, the funny part about that is I look at him and all I can see is the lawyer that gets eaten in Jurassic Park. He'll never be anybody else but that guy.
But I always see Fredo. I don't know. I mean, it's because he looks like John Cazale.
Well, yeah, right. Okay, I got you. I see it right there. All right, cool. Okay, see, for me, the cameo, which really wasn't cameo because this is his first feature film, but Dylan Baker as Owen.
Are you Gus's son?
I'm Owen. You the shower curtain fella?
Yeah, Del Griffith. How are you? This is Neil Page from Chicago.
Hi. Pleased to meet you both. I'm to drive you to Wichita to catch a train?
Yeah, we'd appreciate it.
Train don't run out of Wichita. Unless you're a hog or a cattle. People train runs out of Stubbville.
That'll be fine. That'll be just fine.
Now, leave it be. Get your lazy behind out here and put that trunk up in the back.
Oh, no, we've got it. It's very heavy.
She don't mind. She's short and skinny, but she's strong. Her first baby come out sideways. She didn't scream or nothing.
Isn't that something? You're a real trooper. We've got it. We've got it already. It's done.
Oh my God. He owned those 2 minutes. I mean, the sinus problems, the snort, the face, the tics, everything was all him.
Great lines.
Oh my God. And just the way he delivers it, and when they introduce each other and he spits and wipes his hand. Okay. So quick story. Hughes wanted a genuine reaction from Steve Martin. So he tells Baker, said, spit and use your hand to wipe it off your chin and shaking it with that hand. So that cringe you see in the corner of the screen is real. That's a real cringe from Steve Martin when he's shaking hands with him. Everything in that what a short amount of time is on screen, but oh my God, he just rules that scene. With the other people he's on the screen with, he still owned that. He really, I don't think the other two were acting. I think they were legitimately just going, oh my God. So anyway, I just love. And then of course you have Michael McKean later as the state trooper. He apparently had a longer scene. Yeah. And you think this is street legal?
Yeah.
But yeah, apparently it was much longer, but they cut it down. But and I find it funny, he has fourth billing and he's on the screen for 90 seconds.
Well, I had read that during the scene that they cut out is a scene where Neil and Del get in an argument and they start chasing each other around. I'm kind of glad they cut that because after they kind of make up in the hotel room with the chips and in the mini bar, they never argue anymore after that.
That's right.
They seem to be on the same side. And I think if that would have happened afterwards, I don't know, it would have got maybe too sticky.
Right. No,
but,
I see your point.
From the time they leave there, after they crash into the, the wall, they are on good terms with each other.
Yeah, I see that. I agree. So yeah, cutting that scene made sense because it didn't fit. It just didn't fit. So, okay. So you mentioned the Paul Young song earlier. So we're going to talk about the soundtrack a little bit.
Yeah.
I found something interesting that originally Elton John was supposed to do an original song for the movie, and they were literally ready to record, and Paramount said, well, whatever he records, we get to keep the masters. And Polygram, his record company, said no effing way. So they ended up using a version of Paul Young's song. Like you said, that kind of takes you out because it's not Paul Young, it's somebody else. But there's a wide variety of stuff on here. I mean, you have a good mix of rock and country and pop, including, let's see, what we got, during the Those Aren't Pillows scene, you have Back in My Baby's Arms by Emmylou Harris, and it just so perfectly works in that scene. And like I mentioned before, Mess Around,
the Ray Charles song.
Oh my God, so good. And it's just so funny. And it makes that scene even more entertaining.
Because just imagine that you were on some sort of a road trip, and maybe not even a road trip, and that comes on your stereo as you're driving. You are going to do the Del Griffith dance in your car.
You're going to crank it up and you're going to play the piano on the dashboard. Absolutely. You also have Steve Earle and the Dukes doing a cover of 6 Days on the Road. Now, this one I found was interesting. The Dream Academy, at John Hughes' request, did an instrumental version of the Power to Believe. Apparently, that's the song you hear quite a bit. It became Del's unofficial theme throughout the movie. So, I mean, that's quite a bit. That's not even all much. It's a small sample. And apparently, the Dream Academy song and the different version of Every Time You Go Away are not easy to find. In fact, I don't even think they were on the soundtrack when it was available.
Oh, really? There was actually a soundtrack available.
Yeah, there was a soundtrack. There was. It since has gone out of print, and I do believe some of them are still available on like Apple, on iTunes and whatever. So I'm gonna have to get on Spotify, see if I can find them. But yeah, and it's very normal. If you look at John Hughes movies, you look at the soundtracks through all of them.
Oh yeah,
it's a big part of his filmmaking, and you can tell songs are chosen specifically for certain scenes. And both of us being music nerds, that means a lot to me. I mean, it's like a Cameron Crowe movie. They always have good soundtracks. And
there are certain versions of Weird Science that cut out Van Halen's Pretty Woman and replace it with the Weird Science song.
Really?
Yeah, I remember seeing, I don't know if it is back in because I haven't seen it in a long time, but
you know what? I have a DVD copy. I will have to see because now I'll have to check that out.
But I mean, this wasn't the first time there was a music problem. And I'm wondering how many other times this was an issue, because it was pretty common to just get these kind of things. I guess it was 1987. They're starting to get the hang of like, hey, we need to start charging people for these things a little bit more.
Right. And that was a big issue. I remember with the animated film Heavy Metal.
For years.
A big reason why it wasn't available for a long time was because the rights, when they made the soundtrack, were different from if they released it for video. They didn't take into account that because it wasn't a thing yet. So, throughout especially the mid 80s, that's what happened with the DVD versions of WKRP in Cincinnati.
Yeah.
It was just too expensive for them to pay for the rights for a lot of the songs. So they replaced them with other stuff. So yeah, that's interesting. And that's a whole nother episode to discuss, but yeah.
I think the Elton John song would have been the cherry on the topping.
Yeah. And honestly,
I think it would have made it that much more perfect because
it would have been original. It would have been an original song. Yeah. And we saw with his time doing songs for Disney. Yeah, it does make a difference. So absolutely. I definitely think that would have been, maybe it wouldn't have taken us out of the movie like that song does. So anyway, let's talk rankings as far as where does this fall as far as a John Candy movie for you, as far as a Steve Martin movie. Because I'm gonna go first. I think this is probably Candy's best performance.
Yes.
Because there's a lot more in here than just him being funny. I mean, I love The Great Outdoors, and he was great in Stripes. Uncle Buck is a good one, but
Mm-hmm.
I think this is one where you get a lot of different versions of John Candy.
Yeah, I say they definitely missed out on a Oscar nomination, at least for him in this. I mean, yeah, I don't know. I really do like The Great Outdoors, though.
Yeah.
I mean, he is, as much as he is great in this, he is just as great in The Great Outdoors, because he trying to bond with his family and dealing with relatives and stuff is just. I think he's really great at that.
Yeah.
But this one is probably his A+.
Yeah. Okay. Good. We agree. Awesome. Okay. So what about Steve Martin? He's had a lot of movies, and where does this one fall for you?
Well, I think a lot of Steve Martin is really great, but I feel this is his best film. There are a lot of films of his that, you've got your Sergeant Bilko or your House Sitter and things like that. So he had done more. He didn't have as many, I'd say, hits as Candy, things like Father of the Bride and stuff. Those are good, but those aren't maximum Steve Martin.
Right. Okay.
This, I feel you get a little bit of that, even though he's still kind of reserved in it. He's not wacky in this.
Well, yeah, because he has that moment in Father of the Bride, with the whole hot dog bun scene, where he kind of loses his mind in the, he's really kind of reserved throughout the whole movie, and then loses his mind in the grocery store. So we get a little bit of that in this as well. So yeah, I actually kind of put this third behind Bowfinger and then Roxanne. Because he was, I mean, I love Bowfinger from beginning to end. That entire movie is amazing, and he is so funny in that. But then in Roxanne, you get a little bit more of the kinder, gentler, sweeter, I guess, version that you see and hear from time to time as well. But I really, really liked him in Roxanne. But this is a close third for me, because he really did a good job, and going back and forth from being really reserved and then totally losing it.
Well, the thing is, most of the characters that he plays are not terrible people, but not very likable. His characters aren't likable, and they have to make that change throughout the, even things like Father of the Bride, he's not up for it at the beginning, and you have to change it, Bowfinger and everything. So he really does play well at looking at his own insecurities and, pointing and laughing at it.
Right. I see you. All right. So let's cover a few facts about the movie. Some interesting stuff as I was going through. Talk about the money first. It had a budget of $30 million, which when you're traveling around shooting stuff, obviously it's going to cost money. And, but then also the expenses I'll get to in a second. It did make $49.5 million at the box office, which is a pretty good return on investment.
Yeah.
Especially for a comedy. But the funny part was, in making this, it's a traveling movie. So you have car companies, and you have airlines, and you have rental cars.
A lot of product placement in this movie.
Yes. But then the thing was, none of the actual companies wanted their names used. So, because they didn't want to look incompetent. Right. So they had to, they rented 20 miles of train track, and then had to refurbish some old railroad cars for the train sequence. They had to build an airline terminal, for the Midwest airline or whatever that was they're supposed to be flying.
Yeah. So they're all fake.
Right. Absolutely. And then the biggest one was the rental car. They had to design a logo, make uniforms, and then they had to rent 250 cars to put in that parking lot for him to walk back through. And that's
God.
I know that's kind of expensive. 250 cars.
Yeah, that's expensive.
And then the funny part is that train that they had to paint for the different I think it says Contract is the name of the company. Those are actually still sitting someplace on a train track somewhere. I could not find officially where it is, but they're just intact like that, slowly rusting, I'm sure. But you haven't been touched since the movie got done shooting.
Yeah.
So now I'm sure that you saw this too. Apparently Hughes shot twice the industry standard in film when making this. So even when Martin saw the screenplay, I think it was like 142 pages, which you and I both know for a comedy, it's usually about 90 pages,
Yeah.
roughly 1 page per minute. So, and I guess Martin even asked him, said, are you going to cut the script? And, he looked at him, what are you talking about? What do you mean cut the script? So there is an unfinished, not completely sequential 3-hour cut of this movie sitting in a Paramount vault somewhere.
Yeah.
Oh my God, do I want to see that stuff?
But they said it could be deteriorating.
I know.
Because of how long it's been sitting there.
But still, could you imagine? I mean, the thing is, if you actually watch the trailer, and like most trailers, there's usually a couple shots that are in the trailer, they're not in the movie.
Yeah.
Well, in this trailer, there's actually quite a few. So what's funny is the DVD version does have a deleted scene, but it only has the one. I'm like, if there's a 3-hour cut somewhere, can't we get some more deleted scenes? So I would just love to see different takes and, because apparently they had to do the, pillows scene multiple times because they kept laughing, and which I'm sure was probably pretty consistent, but I would love to see a good chunk of that film, of that, stuff that they shot, because I think it's got to be hilarious.
But I don't know if I would want to watch a longer film like this, because it does seem like, exactly. They're gone. What, 2 days, 3 days?
Oh, he gets home 5 days.
5
days.
Takes
5 days total to get back. Because it was 2 days before. See, that's one thing that I kept thinking over and over again in my head. At the beginning of the movie, it's 2 days till Thanksgiving.
Right.
Which probably means it's Tuesday. So you have Tuesday and Wednesday. And then he says later it took 5 days to get back. And so, because you got to think about how many different hotel stays they had. They had at least 3. So, and then they get back and they're having Thanksgiving dinner when he gets there. So I'm thinking maybe they just kept moving it a day and a day.
Yeah.
So that's like the only thing I'm kind of, but yeah, it's supposed to be 5 days.
I have never understood. And, my family obviously lives in Ohio, and, I live here in Los Angeles, and I've never understood people flying for Thanksgiving. The fact that it is not really, that it's so close to Christmas. Maybe it's the fact that I look at the price and I'm like, you're going to pay for a plane ticket, go through that misery at one point of the year, and you're going to go back usually for, Christmas as well. I never understood the giant, an hour or two out of the way or something like that, a little road trip.
Short drive. Yeah, sure.
Short drive, I think, is okay, but people that fly home for Thanksgiving and Christmas, man, you're killing yourself.
It's like one or the other, man. One or the other. Okay, so I was on IMDb and Wikipedia and all that kind of fun stuff, and I did look at the ratings for John Hughes directed movies. Now, we mentioned earlier that he's written a lot, but he's only directed 8, and that includes 16 Candles, The Breakfast Club, Weird Science, Ferris Bueller's Day Off, this one, of course, She's Having a Baby, Uncle Buck, and the last one he directed was Curly Sue. Now, according to what I read, this was the best reviewed film of the 8 he directed. Is this his best movie that he directed? What do you think?
Yes, because this seems like this is the one where a comedic director turns into a film director. And I think this is where he turned into a film director, as opposed to the guy that just writes comedy and directs high school, type of shenanigans.
Right.
This, and the fact that this movie has no teenagers, it's about 2 adults, with kids, which is usually not in his directorial films, but focusing on that. But yeah, this is when he was saying, I'm serious this time.
Right. Yeah. And especially a lot of the movies he wrote, but yeah, all the ones I listed, She's Having a Baby was the only other one that he did that really focused on the adults. And that one,
but they were still young.
Yeah. But it also
minded young adults.
Yeah. It also didn't do very well as far as critical reception, which doesn't,
I think that's a great movie, actually.
I've watched it a couple times, and I'll be really honest, I remember so little from that movie.
Yeah.
I need to watch it again, apparently. But I agree. I think as far as his direction, I think he definitely nailed it with this one. With what he's able to do, he takes these 2 people from, different backgrounds, because especially when you talk about they're at the diner and they've been robbed the day after the first hotel stay. Neither one of them has any cash. You have Martin's character saying, I had $700 in cash. And then, and Dell said, I had over $200 in cash. I'm thinking, man, who the hell carries that much cash around?
Yeah.
And one is a traveling salesman, one works in marketing. So they're from completely different, as far as income levels. So it's interesting. And he puts them together in horrible situations. He makes you root for them, makes you like them, takes you on the same journey. And when Steve Martin gets home and there's the payoff of, hey, this is Dell, whatever. And you get that, nice coming home. So yeah, he does a lot of things and he makes, like I said, there's not, like, with the exception of the song at the end, maybe there's really not a lot of mistakes in this movie.
No.
So yeah, and then one of the praises I kept reading over and over again was, hey, look, he's actually working with adults. He's not making a kids movie. And I think it was Roger Ebert that put this in his list of, greatest movies of all time, which that says a lot coming from that guy. So, okay. We both agree, out of the 8 movies he did, this was the best one. So
this is a formula that they have been trying to replicate since this film came out and have not been able to replicate it.
Yeah.
The perfect mix of buddy, comedy, road trip.
Yeah.
All together as one with constant going, not just going on a little bit of a road trip and then like one destination, like The Hangover. Like The Hangover, I like it, but it's not really a road movie.
No.
So this formula, and I know there's been crazy talks about trying to remake the film, but it's been trying to be done again in so many different forms and disguise itself as it, but they just can't do it. And I think that's why it is so good. It's one of those films I think is going to get a higher rating the more time passes.
Yeah.
I mean, it's got a high rating now, but people are going to look at it more and say, yeah, man, it is this good. It really, really is this good.
I mean, I will honestly say that last time I watched it, I think I've laughed more now than I have in recent years. And I don't know if it's just because I'm getting older and I'm appreciating more of what he went through because I've been there more myself.
Mm-hmm.
But no, it does get funnier when I see it. And I've always been a fan of John Candy and Steve Martin anyway. And of course, John Hughes movies as well. But yeah, it doesn't get old. It's, it's still funny. It's still relatable. And like I said at the beginning, you're not so sure if you're supposed to like these two. But you definitely do by the end of the movie. So yeah.
I was going to say, for somebody that is more in depth as far as quantity of screenplays as opposed to directing efforts, usually when you sometimes see a writer go to directing, it's not very impressive.
Right.
It's usually what they learned from being on set with the directors that wrote their scripts. But his films, especially with this one, have the look of this film with Breakfast Club and like 16 Candles and She's Having a Baby. They have a John Hughes directed by look to them, which sometimes you don't get from that writer turned director later on after a long, illustrious career of writing.
Yeah. And he definitely, he likes that world. He created his own little universe and he knows exactly what it looks like. And so he's able to bring it to the screen. And what's interesting is even with the stuff he wrote but didn't direct, they still have a tendency to, like Home Alone. It looks like it's in that same universe, you know. And even though it's Chris Columbus, it's still a John Hughes looking movie. So yeah,
it has a feel the way that a produced Steven Spielberg movie has a feel.
Right.
You have a touch of him in almost anything. You can feel it in all of his stuff.
Right. I agree. All right. So do you have any final thoughts on Planes, Trains, and Automobiles?
Well, I'm glad they didn't go with what Hughes really wanted at first, was actually in nothing against these two actors, but Tom Hanks for the role of Neil and Travolta as the role of Dell. I mean,
I read that too. Tom Hanks I could have seen, but at that point, because they flat out said no to Travolta. I saw that because he was considered box office poison at that point. So yeah, that would have been weird. That would have been weird. I don't think it would have. Like I said, Tom Hanks probably could have done a good job, but it would have been a different movie. I don't think it would have held. I don't think it would have been as genuine, I guess.
Yeah. And also Candy's physical personality, it's his size, his mannerisms and stuff. It gives that character that extra much.
Yeah. Yeah. I remember reading a few different things where they said they really were able to take John Candy's true personality and put it on screen and have him work with the idiosyncrasies of that particular character. Yeah. So yeah, it works. And honestly, I think Travolta acting like that would have probably come off more of an asshole than than oblivious. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So no, I'm glad they didn't do that either.
And somebody pointed out a funny thing that if Neil and Del would have just actually hung out at the airport later on that night when his wife is watching TV on the news, it says that the weather is clearing up at O'Hare Airport.
Yeah, I know, right? So,
I mean,
you just never know. They played the odds and they rolled snake eyes.
Yeah.
Thank you, Brad, and I'm sure I'll have you on again soon.
Yeah.
It's always fun, and I definitely want to thank all of the listeners out there from all across the country and more recently all across the world. It's a lot more fun knowing that people are listening and actually kind of care what we have to say, and let us know what you think. Reach out to us on social media on Facebook and Twitter. Drop us an email and let us know how we're doing. Go ahead and weigh in on what you think about this movie as well. And if you have any ideas, something you want to hear us talk about, ramble on about, let us know. And if we use your idea, we'll definitely let you guys know and tell, hey, give you a shout out. And also just make sure it is the holiday season. And for some people, it's kind of challenging. So make sure to reach out to your friends and your family, maybe people you haven't seen in a while, check in on them, see how they're doing, and just let them know that they are cared for. And remember, we all are in this together. And always remember, when it comes to watching a movie or listening to music, physical media is better than streaming. Thank you and good night. This has been the Docking Bay 77 podcast. Opening music provided by Eric Jason Brock. Check him out on YouTube and Bandcamp. If you want to reach out to us on social media, we are on Twitter and Facebook at Docking Bay 77 podcast. Or you can send us an email, dockingbay77podcast@gmail.com. Thanks for listening.